Hello everyone, I had a lot of requests to make a combat video for Meteor Tales, so here it goes. Now, we're gonna run a few simple scenarios. We have two fighters fighting each other. So, each character gets two actions. It's up to them to reserve actions for reactions for defense. So, one action is to move 5-6 tiles within the mobility of the character, and one action to attack. Now, I roll a d20, that's a 2, okay? It barely hits, but it hits. Now, if I want to block this maneuver, I have to roll 2 or higher. Okay? That's an 8. So that is a successful defense. So, this character has spent 2 actions. He's done for the round. He has 1 more action, and he can hit the defenseless guy. So everything I score on the d20 counts for damage. 14. So 14 points of damage to this guy. Very simple, very straightforward. These were default maneuvers, block and attack. Let's say we want to try a more sophisticated maneuver. Ox strike. So you attack the target and you push him away 1 tile. That's very important because this way the other character has to spend 1 action just to move closer to you again. So for example, if I roll a 10 and he fails to defend, he suffers 10 points of damage and goes back 1 tile. Okay? Now, let's just play it out for the fun. I roll a 16, okay? And the defense would be 3, so that would be 16 points of damage and push 1 tile. That is an example of a sophisticated maneuver. Now, this maneuver has a +1 risk modifier, which means that critical failure comes with 1 and 2. Now, let's run another scenario focusing on the defense. So if this guy attacks me and rolls a 5, let's say I want to do a sophisticated defensive maneuver. Ox shield is a similar maneuver that blocks and pushes the attacker back 1 tile. The same advantage as the attack maneuver in a different roll. So let's say he rolls a 5 for attack, I roll for defense, I roll a 16. So I block and I push him back 1 tile. That's how it works. Again, Ox Shield has a +1 risk. If I rolled 1 or 2, that will be a failure. A more powerful defensive maneuver, but more risky, is Blade Shield. So you block the incoming attack and you perform a counter attack at the same time. So again, if I roll, let's say, 5 for attack, I roll for defense, let's say I roll a 11, I block the attack and inflict 11 points of damage. So that's how it works. Very easy. However, a Blade Shield has a +3 modifier, so 1 to 4 would be a critical failure. It's kinda risky. So there you go. That's a very basic example of attack and defense in Meteor Tales. Let's do something else now. In this scenario, the warrior and the wizard want to fight against the Minotaur. A Minotaur is a monster with crazy grit points, probably 200 or 300, crazy at critical attack damage. Probably one attack would render someone dead or unconscious, and you have to use strategy. So, Let's try something very basic. The wizard wants to cast a firebolt spell against the Minotaur. Now, a firebolt spell is very simple. It's a fire spell with a bolt shape combined, okay? Risk is only 1. You just roll for 5 damage and you roll a 5. That's 5 points of damage to the creature. Now, monsters are very unlikely to defend themselves. They're mostly focused on the attack, especially Minotaurs that go berserk. So that will be 5 points of damage. But is it worth the action? Because if the Minotaur attacks, the wizard can benefit from casting protective spells as reactions. Let's take another approach now. Let's say that the wizard wants to block the Minotaur, casting a firewall. Now, a firewall is a fire spell that combines the fire spell and the wall shape. It's kind of expensive in terms of risk. It's a +6, so that would be 1 to 7 is a failure, so it's a kind of a risky spell. That's a 9, the spell succeeds. So have a firewall going on, which means that if the Minotaur walks through the fire, he automatically receives 1 d20 damage. So that's something, right? However, now that I'm sustaining the spell, anything I do has a +6 risk modifier because the spell encumbers me. Every spell, I can have another spell active. I have an active risk now. So even if I want to cast again a basic firebolt spell, that would come with a cost of +6. Now a firebolt spell, I'd have to roll higher than 7 to succeed, just a basic spell. So the spells add up, the risk adds up. Now let's go to spell defense. Let's say that the Minotaur wants to attack either my friend here or the wizard, okay? Let's say he rolls a 10. I could attempt to perform a blink spell, a blink barrier as a reaction. So I have to roll higher than 10. Okay, so for example, if I roll a 1, I fail, I suffer the attack. 10 points of damage, that's it. If I roll an 11, I can teleport within my perception range and save myself from the attack. That also works for my ally. Now, let's say that the Minotaur wants to spend the next attack on my ally. And he spends, for example, the attack, he scores a 5. Now, I need to roll a 5 or higher to blink him away, okay? To save him. No, so 1, I fail, he suffers the damage. Or 12, I succeed and I teleport him away here. That's how defense works with magic. So different shapes on the same spells can have different results. To prove that, let's say that I want to help my friend here attack the Minotaur, but he is on the cliff, he cannot move. So he performs the attack and I support him by blinking him near the creature to attack. So let's say he rolls for attack 10 and I roll for 12. I successfully blink him and he scores 10 points of damage. That's how supportive magic works. If I fail to blink him, we both lose 1 action, no damage done. We just lost 1 action each. But that's how it works. Another example of magic. Let's say I want to use my fire magic again, but to enchant my ally's weapon. So, the wizard will cast a fire blade spell, fire enchant spell. Okay? Simple spell, low risk, a 7 will do. So, I enchant his blade with fire magic. Now, every attack the fighter does gets a bonus of +1 d20 of fire damage. So let's say I attack the Minotaur now, that would be 1 d20 for the attack, that's a 12, and another for the fire damage, another 13, that's 25 points of damage, that's a lot of damage. But now again, I'm encumbered with fire magic, so I've got extra risk. Let's take it one step further. This is the last example. I want to further support my ally by casting a blink armor spell. So what that means is that every time I receive an attack, the armor automatically has a chance of blinking the character away without having to spend a reaction. But that spell is sustained by the wizard, so it encumbers him with extra risk. Now, a blink spell in an armor shape has a 2 risk modifier. It's low, it's very powerful. Okay? So I cast a spell, it's successful, I've got the blink armor. Now, let's say that the Minotaur attacks, he scores a 12. The blink armor is a 15, so automatically the character blinks away. The wizard decides where the character goes because he sustains the spell. If the armor had failed, my character would have a chance at the reaction of his own, however. Okay, so it's another layer of defense. Okay, that's how it works. A last example, okay? The Minotaur had attacked, let's say, a gruesome attack of 40 points of damage, okay, or 35 points of damage. That would mean that my grit level would be lower, okay? That would drop me to the D12 die. My effectiveness would be far off. So anything this character would do, I would change my roll into a D12. Okay, so for example, if I want to attack, I would roll a D12. That's a 5 points of damage, low damage. If I want to defend myself against an attack, I would have to be limited to the D12 die. That's how wounding works. But more of that in the next video. Stay tuned. Let me know if you have any questions. Until next time, take care.